What's up, guys? Welcome to the podcast. On this episode, I'm going to this one, we'll do a little something different. I'm first going to regale you with a little interesting tidbit of history that might be interesting to you if you're interested in gladiators and stuff. As someone that's a bit involved in combat sports for a long time, I feel like a lot of us feel like we have some faint connection to that, right? And again, it's not nearly as brutal, so I don't want to say it's like apples and apples. It's clearly not, but I think that any of us that have fought MMA, when you've like stepped into a cage with another human being and you start beating each other up while people are screaming and yelling, like you find that there's a little bit of that there. Or if you go to a jiu-jitsu competition and you're hearing the crowd roaring, like you have some semblance of what that experience is like. So we'll talk about that. And then afterwards, I will give you one of my top 5 tips for jiu-jitsu. And I say top 5 because in no particular order is it the best one or the worst one. It's just one of the most useful ones. And recently it's been something that I've used in a big way to win several matches, including my 2022 Nogi Worlds performance, as well as some matches where I had recently where we're going to get some really young, tough competitors in a little local tournament. They showed up and there's some tough dudes. And one of which I think is going to be pretty good in the years to come. For sure. And it'll be one of those things where I'll look back and be like, yep, when I get a little older and he's like to the point where he can just like smoke me. It's kind of like with Chad. Like Chad's like one of those things where like the last time I rolled with Chad, I'm like, I'm just struggling to hang on. And it's like, yeah, but back in the day, I used to put it to him, you know what I mean? Or I used to be able to hang with him. Now it's like, nope. And I'm sure this will be the case with that young guy as he continues to grow. And, but that said, thank you guys so much for being on the podcast. As always, thanks to our sponsors for helping make this darn thing happen every week. So you get to listen to my bearded voice come through the microphone to your ears, and joined by my assistant, Mr. Eugene here.
That's me.
That's him, Eugene, physical therapist for jiu-jitsu.
Something like that.
And guys, big thanks to Charlotte's Web for helping make the podcast happen. If you guys have never been to their website, check it out at charlottesweb.com. Again, I've talked about their products for a number of years. They have a lot of cool products that they have on there. They do have the traditional tinctures, the oil that you use periodically. They also have gummies. Gummies that also include, in some cases, things like theanine or melatonin or whatever it is that they want to put in there. But again, they also have just the plain CBD gummies. And they also have a really good balm that they make, like a pain, like what would you say? It's almost like an icy hot, but with CBD type stuff. And it's really good. I like that stuff. Sometimes like when I get aches and pains, especially after like I take that little stick. I take that stick with me every time I compete, because it's like when you're done competing, you're always feel like you just got out of like a wreck or something.
Sure.
So I'll put in there. But again, there's a lot of cool benefits to CBD products. I mean, you have everything from potentially helping reduce inflammation after working out. And it can in some cases help people to support a sense of calm and focus and things like that. So there's a lot of cool stuff that it can do. My encouragement with any supplement is to like try it out for yourself, because again, everybody gets different reactions, different results, and it affects them slightly differently. And this is for everything. Like for instance, like right now I'm using before bed, I will use theanine and ashwagandha root. Did a little research, again, trying it out to see how it works. And I find that, like I was telling Eugene, like as I've gotten older, when it's time to go to sleep, like at nighttime, if I trained late, I notice that like my body seems to be a little bit more wired and my sleep time wants to be pushed back. But if I take that about an hour before bed, it helps kind of chill things out. And again, I take it right before, about an hour before I plan to wind down. And it's been useful. It's been a useful addition to supplements. And so again, try it out for yourself though. Whatever you do, don't take, my word for it, see what you think. And so again, if you'd like to try CBD products and you've never got around to it, I encourage you to go to their website at charlottesweb.com. The promo code is Jiu-Jitsu20 for 20% off. Also, one of their newest products, just in case for some of you guys are interested. I know we have a lot of like police, first responders, that kind of stuff. People that may have certain situations where they get tested and they don't want to have THC pop up. They have a product that's it's endorsed by the Major League Baseball, and it's NSF certified sport. And what that basically means is if you were like a USADA like tested fighter, like a UFC fighter, USADA would say this is a supplement that would be on our list of okay stuff, right? So it's not THC free necessarily. There's little bits of it, the way they derive it out, but they've done tests after test after test. And so it seems to be effective at providing the benefits of THC, or not THC, but CBD, without all of the issues with people being tested for sports and things like that, like the MLB and UFC and stuff like that, or any of the sports that fall under that USADA banner. Again, do your research. I wouldn't want to put your livelihood at risk, but I know a lot of people want to try CBD and they haven't been able to, and that could be a product that could be really interesting for you. Also, guys, thanks to our sponsor, Epic Roll. If you haven't checked out their website yet and checked out their products, I encourage you to do so. EpicRollBJJ.com. Matt at Epic Roll is a Jiu-Jitsu black belt who makes Jiu-Jitsu products for people that do Jiu-Jitsu like you and I. And again, he makes a lot of cool stuff. I like the designs of his shirts. I like the quality of the shirts. I like the quality of the gis that he sends out. And I like what he puts together with the shorts. We're going to be testing out some new products in the future because I want to do another batch with him for the Jiu-Jitsu gear that we did last year. But I want to like change a few things. And so we're going to see if we can make some cool changes and hopefully get a really cool product out to you guys soon. But again, until then, he's got a lot of cool stuff. I like what he puts out. A lot of cool designs, high quality stuff. And if you want to check out his stuff, whether you want a t-shirt, a rash guard, shorts, a gi, whatever you might be interested in, check him out at epicrollbjj.com. And then the promo code is Jiu-Jitsu for 15% off. Also, guys, if you are a man or you have a man in your life that would like to step up his grooming game with some top shelf grooming products, I encourage you to check out Manscaped. Manscaped is a premier men's grooming product company that originally started off as like, I feel like it was all about the balls. And like now they've expanded because they used to have like this whole thing that was like all built around like trimming up your balls and stuff like that. And they must have listened to guys like me because like I got a hold of their trimmer, right? For those of you watching the lawnmower, the 4.0 lawnmower here, I started using this thing and I just basically used it to replace my trimmer that I used for my beard too. I was like, this is just a good trimmer. I was like, I don't need a bunch of different trimmers. Like, it trims whatever because even says this is like, it says designed for groin grooming, which it'll do that perfectly, but it'll also shave up your face. But they recently just came out with a beard hedger.
Yes,
that's what they came out with. So
we just got it in. We have not been able to test it out yet. I opened it, just played around with it a little bit. It's got this cool like adjustable dial on it. So it'd be very cool to try it out. I have not tried it out yet.
So I'm going to give it a whirl when it's time to give my beard another trim, and I'll see how it works because I'm excited to try it. Because if it's like any of their other products, this is the thing. Like there's certain companies and certain individuals that like I will like get things from, and I get excited when I get those things from them because they've done such a good job of providing value before, right? So like when they send us something, because again, like they're sponsoring the podcast, so they let us try stuff out.
Yeah.
When they send us stuff, I get excited because I'm like, oh, like they everything that I've gotten from them is quality. Everything from their soaps and their balms and their deodorants and their trimmers, all this stuff. I'm like, ooh, I get to try something new that's going to be really good. I get excited about it, and so I'm excited to try that the beard hedger. Maybe I'll make a video or whatever, let you guys know how it goes.
And it's got like little scissors. It's got like
little
brushes. Kit. Yeah, it has a beard oil, beard balm, like beard shampoo and all this stuff. I mean, it all smells really good.
Okay,
it's nice.
I never.
Nice.
People ask, like, do you put like beard balms? Like, I don't really do the. Beard,
I don't
do the beard oil thing. Yeah,
I just like I don't know. It's all I got, bro. Yeah, that's all I got. I gotta take care of it.
Take care of it.
I gotta take care of it.
So I don't do all the beard oil,
but it's nice. You get everything in that kit, like everything you need. It's very cool.
So again, we'll let you know the results. But again, if you've never been to their website and kind of looked around at the stuff they have, I encourage you to go over there and take a look at it. The website is manscaped.com. The promo code is Chewjitsu20. Again, that's Chewjitsu. So like, I know sometimes I say it fast and it sounds like Jiu-Jitsu. Like someone sent me a message on Instagram. They're like, hey, the Jiu-Jitsu code's not working. Like, it's Chewjitsu. So CHEWJITSU 20. And again, that's 20% off the order, that whatever you get. And also you get free shipping. So it's a good deal. And guys, last but not certainly least, if you want to support the podcast directly, you can do so by going to Patreon. We have a Patreon there. It's at patreon.com/the Chewjitsu podcast. And if you sign up there, you'll get a bunch of content that we put together. Again, that's not a good sales tactic for you, just a bunch of content.
Great.
But it's actually really bad. But it's got a lot of content extras, everything from podcast extras that we've done. Like we just did one where we were talking about the
slap fighting
and Car-Jitsu.
Our thoughts on those high skilled quality endeavors,
sports,
whatever you call them.
And that kind of stuff. But then also there's things like we have on there, like rolling videos or just different clips and stuff like that I've put together. For any of you Patreon members that have been waiting for the breakdown of my matches, I'm working on them. I had to do a couple things. So again, it's those are coming, and it'll have breakdowns for the matches that those people will have that other people won't. And also you get a couple free bonuses. One is a seminar that I recorded, one of my seminars, some really cool stuff, gi and no-gi techniques, some of my best techniques. And then Eugene has a stretching mobility sort of type thing where basically it takes you about 20 minutes, and he'll go through some really like tight tonic muscles in jiu-jitsu, and also some of the weaker ones, because a lot of times we stretch the tight ones but then we neglect the weaker muscles, and the problem with that is then the imbalance that's creating that tension stays, and you're not correcting it. So it'll feel good for a little bit, but then it goes right back to normal, and a lot of times the hips and stuff like that can create a problem. So again, really cool stretching video, 20 minutes. It would benefit you greatly if you did it like once a day or even 3 times a week. 20 minutes. I mean, if you don't have 20 minutes 3 times a week to straighten your body out, like, that's on you. But again, it would be very helpful to you for mobility and for injury prevention. Yep. So check it out. And again, that's at patreon.com/the Chewjitsu podcast. And finally, guys, I said last but not least earlier, but this is the last one.
Yes.
If you guys want to get a hold of some free ebooks, some free things from me, and you get my daily email newsletter, then you can do so by going to my website at chewjitsu.net/join, JOIN. Upon joining, you'll get access to 3 free ebooks. One is on your game, developing a game plan for jiu-jitsu. One is for drilling, and then one is for a study guide. All 3 of which will, within the next few months, will be gone away. I'll be discontinuing those ebooks. So if you want them soon, you should get them, because I will basically be taking those away. Those will probably become be a part of a bigger product that I'll be making, and I'll be giving away something else. So if you want them, get them while they're there. If you're listening to this in the far future, there will be something else there for you. But that said, guys, let's jump into this podcast. Let's talk about some Gladiator stuff and some history stuff, and then we'll get into the actual tips for your jiu-jitsu. What's up, guys? So before we get into our idea for you, one of my top 5 jiu-jitsu tips for you for your training, I wanted to share a random history fact that I think maybe you might resonate with, because a lot of times you'll hear people when they compare like martial artists, MMA fighters, anybody that's involved in combat sports. Yeah, they always you'll see this comparison a lot of times get used of gladiators, right? In the gladiatorial games or whatever, you'll see that kind of stuff. And I think it's interesting when people bring that up, because I think there's a lot of times misconceptions about stuff. Like people will say, like they'll compare themselves. I heard a jiu-jitsu guy that they compare himself to a samurai. Yeah. You know, if you're gonna be a samurai, I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? I was like, I mean, are we talking about the mythological samurai? Are we talking about the real ones? Sometimes history geeks like
that's different.
History geeks,
us, history noobs are not very intelligent. History
geeks like me sometimes aren't fun to have around. We ruin things. But the
that's probably freaking true.
Yeah, it's like, you know, you watch something and it's like, well, actually, like, shut up,
that's
Chewy.
not
like,
historically accurate.
Yeah, that's not historically accurate. That's not the actual way that they fought. You know, but again, I think a lot of times the history is way more interesting than what like Hollywood does. But
it can be. Yeah,
I think it's interesting. But anyway, the gladiatorial games, right, where those sparked from, and just maybe you'll find this interesting. I thought this was interesting. I was going through a lecture series recently, and I was like, I didn't know that, so I thought maybe you guys would be interested too. So the gladiator like battles, right, that eventually made it to the Colosseum. First off, they weren't the most popular thing in Rome. The most popular thing was the chariot racing. That was what people really loved, right? They like that was like chariot like racing was so popular that like riots happened, and at some points like emperors were like people attempted to depose emperors, you know, based on like these teams. They had the greens, the whites, and these different colored teams. And like, I mean, it was super intense, right? Whereas like the gladiatorial stuff, it was popular, but not on the same level. But the gladiatorial games actually started as a funeral rite, like a funeral ritual for wealthy, they believe wealthy like Etruscans. So the Etruscans were people that like the Romans eventually conquered. And the Romans were kind of this thing where they would like take over stuff, and then they would just take and like sort of assimilate it into their culture. Like if they like the you know, that famous Roman sword, the gladius. Are you familiar with that? So it's that sword. If you look at it, like, oh, that's the Roman sword, right? They actually, I think they got that from Spanish tribes. They were fighting them like, well, that's a good weapon. Let's take that one. And then their whole like god system was like based on like the Greeks. It's like, oh, you call him Zeus, we'll call him Jupiter. right? Like, oh, he's Aries. Oh, we call him Mars. You know,
right, there you go.
And then like, but the idea was that the Etruscans or whatever was like the wealthy Etruscans would have servants or whomever fight, and then the idea was that the blood, I guess, would like sort of like it's almost like a human sacrifice, if you will. But they fought, and the blood was supposed to cleanse something or other. You know, it's like the same thing with like, you know, you had native cultures in different parts of the world do human fat sacrifices to whatever, and then you even had animal sacrifices, right? Same thing, but just they're fighting, and here it is. But it started off as a funeral ritual that then eventually grew into something when the Romans took them over. They're like, all right, we're going to take this, and then eventually became
an event spectacle,
created a spectacle,
like fight to the death, I guess.
So, not always.
A
lot of times they had like a lot of them had fairly decent careers, because if you had a guy that was bringing in tickets, you didn't want him to die, right? So like you would like, and by towards the end of like at its height, when it was the most popular, you had weight classes.
Oh,
or not weight, it's not weight class community, like kind of, I don't want to say like defined classes, but you had experience levels. They would be matched up almost like boxers. Like, I'm going to match this guy up. How long's he been training? Okay, my guy's been training this long, but their experience levels, how many fights they've had, all that kind of stuff. And it's one last thing, and then we'll get off. I know you guys are like, man, I don't want to hear history stuff. This is funny. I don't like the picture that you have of gladiators back in these just ripped, shredded dudes. And actually what they found is that they were probably a little bit heavier set, because like they would the diet's like written down, like they would eat tons and tons of like fat and carbohydrates, because they would try to bulk up. Because the idea was that like if you get a cut and you're super lean and you don't have any fat, there's no subcutaneous fat, then what ends up happening is like they could sever an artery, a nerve, or cut something really bad. Whereas if they hit a little bit of like chunk, it's like it's not like a little piece of fat's not gonna be as bad as like me slicing
a little more cushion, huh?
It's right. Well, even think about like you look at dogs, right? Like a lot of like fighting dogs, like Shar-Peis and stuff, they have all those like rolls and stuff, so you could bite onto them and it doesn't actually do anything. So they're just as an example, possibly. But so like they were I guess one name that they were sometimes jokingly called was barley boys, the barley men, because they would just eat lots and lots of grains to try to bulk up.
Gotcha.
So they would not be a fan of cutting weight.
No, probably not.
So with that random thing out of the way, I just like sharing. So again, a lot of you guys listen to the podcast. One, you are my students, so maybe I've already told you this in class. Some of you guys aren't.
Stories just making the rounds, huh?
Yeah, it's like that's what I do. Like I like sharing fun information with people, and so I heard that the other day. I was like, that's pretty cool. I did not know that. I didn't know that about them being heavy set. I didn't know that them, about trying to eat barley and whatever else, and I didn't know that they like. It started off as a funeral thing and that all that kind of stuff. And so again, if you're watching I've just ruined it now. So if you ever go watch like some movie like Gladiator,
which we all love,
or like some movie where they have gladiators, you're going to be watching it going, didn't happen this way. That guy would have been fatter,
I do that a lot. Like if I've read the book of something,
of course,
and then I like watch the movie and I'm like, well, this isn't how it happened.
Yeah.
We're going through like the Harry Potter stuff with my son. He's like we're reading them, and then we're watching the movie after. I was like, that's not what happened. What the hell are they doing? That's not it. And then my wife's like, what are you doing? It's a movie. I have to kind of make it, entertaining. It can't be exact. Sometimes when you read it and it's hard to put it on film, I guess.
Well, sometimes it is. And sometimes I think like movie makers have a certain agenda, like especially today, where they're like, they'll take a character from a story and they'll completely change everything up. You're like, wait. All of us that loved that book, you completely just dumped on it. Like, why didn't you just create something different? Instead of using that name, why didn't you just create a story? It's not like you have you can't do a certain setting. Yeah. Why don't you just do it that way instead of like changing all the characters up to meet whatever you want to be true? Because then obviously the people that come to watch it, like me, that were like, hey, we're excited to watch this. This is about that thing that we read so many years ago or whatever. And then you're like, whoa, this isn't how this was supposed to happen. Like we're looking for this, like, we're not looking for a reimagined version. We're looking for like, okay, show me like when I watched Dune last year, Dune was great. Dune was like,
I agree.
He did a really good job of sticking close to the books and getting as much as he could in there without it being too long of a slog. I think Dune would have been a better like long-term series in a movie, because of all the lore that they go through. But it wasn't like they changed the whole character structure completely. Like, you watched it and you're like, okay, Duncan Idaho's getting ready to die. Okay. Like this is getting ready to happen. Like these are the things that were happening and they happened like the book, but you got to see that world that you imagine in your brain as in the world. And it's like, it looks kind of like I thought it would, opposed to like, if you would have watched it and be like, that isn't what the hell are they doing? Yeah. Right. Like that's not how that happened.
I think they had a couple of false starts. They had like a show or something initially. They didn't do very well.
Yeah.
But maybe unpopular opinion, I thought the movie was way better than the book. That's just me. I was like, the book's kind of slow, and like I don't know, there wasn't like, I'm always like a fan of like, I want a little more action, you know. And the book was like, and now so and so's dead. And I was like, well, you skipped like the you know, the engagement, the fight, which I'm like, you're leading up to, and all of a sudden, all right, this person won. I'm like,
there's a couple action scenes in the book, but a lot of it, the book is like almost like soap opera, sci-fi.
I know, and I was just like,
you know, for whatever reason, I really did like it. I wasn't sure if I was going to, but I liked it.
I think it was definitely ahead of its time in many ways, because in the 70s it was written.
I think so. And
there wasn't anything really like that. And then if you look at, let's get nerdy for a second here. If you look at the similarities between Star Wars and you know, like you have like all the like the sand people and stuff like that, the Tusken Raiders, and like there's, you know, there's a lot of similarities there. You're like, wait a second,
sandworms.
I've seen, yes, I was like, I've seen all of this. This is very similar. So I think the, well, if anything, inspired a lot of creativity and a lot of different imagination worlds and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, that's like, if you look at like every fantasy, high fantasy, you know, armor, swords, magic type stuff. I mean, basically it's like Tolkien. I mean, you're going back to him. Like, yeah, I mean, that was the dude. I mean, he was the one that started that stuff, you know, and then all of a sudden it's like everybody else kind of builds off of it. Not a bad thing, but like just builds off of it. But let's jump into some jiu-jitsu, you know, taking you guys through a little ride.
That's right.
So Eugene and I were meeting again in the morning. And so probably what you guys are getting here is like our morning coffee talk. Like we're having he's having some tea, I'm having some coffee. We're just jabbering. So today I'm going to give you one of my best tips, top 5, or one of my top 5 tips that I give to you. It's super simple. Right. It's one that like literally like, I'll give you some stories and examples of recently how I used it to win gold medal at the Worlds, Nogi Worlds. I also used it to go up against some young, tough competitors that I went against recently, like that came into town. That were one of them was a really tough young,
that was impressive, man.
young, some tough guys.
Dude. So just to give you a little background, this guy that Chewy, well, we can share his name later if you want, or we can share it now. But he was like, first of all, I didn't realize, I've seen him. He did the PGF. He won the PGF. Elijah Carlton.
Right? He's tough, very tough.
So like I saw him, like, man, his build is very, like, he's very tall and kind of just has a really great build.
But he's long and he's still strong though.
And you watched him do his matches. And like before you guys got together, like got to your match, and he was just like literally getting underneath people. Like he's like, boom, lifting people up, getting underneath them, getting a leg entanglement, ball game. I mean, he was doing that literally in like 30 seconds. There's nothing to say against the people he went against. He was so good at that avenue and that aspect of his. And I was excited to see you guys go, because you're used to that type of game too, that leg lock game. And you have, you're not leg lock heavy, but you have a good leg lock counter game, I would say.
Well, and I know about them enough that like, I know like, okay, like it's like, here's another good tip for you. This is guard passing, right? Like my guard passing got way better when I worked on my guard bottom game. When I learned how to play guard, my guard passing got better because I knew what was going on down there. So like my ability to counter leg locks I'm not a great, like by no means, like if for instance, when I went against Elijah, had Elijah got me inside of his leg entanglement, I would have been toast. It would have been done. That would have been his, that's his realm. Like us two competing, like that is his realm, and he would have friggin' waxed me there in a heartbeat. Just no doubt about it. And so, but I know leg locks, and I play around with them all the time, but I'm not a great leg locker. I know them, but me knowing them and knowing, okay, like here is the basic objectives of people doesn't mean I don't get caught sometimes, but I have a better idea of what's going on. So now I can defend against it.
And we're gonna go back one more step before all that stuff. And if you watch the match, it might be somewhere on social media or whatever. When I was watching you guys, it all starts the grip fighting. It was all about grips. So before you even got into that, like that number one is like the first contact, and it was grips. You guys fought grips for quite a while.
And he got me off balance for a second. I remember at the very beginning of the match, he got a hold of me, lifted it with the butterfly guard, and I had to like really sprawl my hips out. And I was like, uh-oh. I was like, this damn whippersnapper's about to get me.
He's good, dude.
He's good. And I thought he was about to get me. Luckily, I was able to make it out. And then again, it was a sub-only match. So the match was a draw. You know what I mean? We were battling it out, but it was one of those things where, again, in that match, we were able to use the tip that I'm going to talk about here in just a second. And And so with that, basically, and here we go. You ready for us?
We could talk a little longer, so keep them on the edge, right?
Keep teasing you
on the
bit.
hook.
I'm going to stop teasing you. The idea basically is very simple. Do stuff to your weak side, do stuff to both sides. We'll talk about guard passing specifically, but the rule will apply to everything. Do it to both sides. Now, I know that's like mind blown, right? Here's the deal. Useful stuff doesn't have to be complex. The problem is a lot of things that are incredibly useful are very simple, but they require a lot of discipline. It requires discipline to practice moves on the side that you're weakest to, or to not just immediately go to your strong side or whatever feels most comfortable to you, because people love playing the games that they're good at. Mm-hmm. They love doing what they want to do. And so what it comes down to, like, okay, I always pass to my left or whatever. Well, I don't want to pass to my right. My right side is my quote weak side, my dummy side. Mm-hmm. Don't feel as comfortable there. So they don't want to do it. So, okay, well, I mean, like, again, it's not a complex tip, but I mean, again, if you're listening to this, question yourself. How often do you force yourself to work on the side that doesn't come as natural to you? Right? Like, okay, do you practice your rear naked choke with your left arm instead of your right, or vice versa?
That's a great point.
Do you practice your guard passing left side to right side? Do you practice your arm bars and all your guard submissions both sides? Like, and then a lot of you that are advanced, that are like within your blue belt, purple belt, whatever, brown belt, black belt. Okay, well, coach is showing me something I already know. Great, do it on the other side.
That's great.
It's a great opportunity to get better at both sides. It's like, have you mastered it on both sides? Right? Probably not. I mean, mastering is a relatively funny word anyway, but essentially, like, do you have it down to where you can do it like autopilot both sides, like, and catch it in the gym?
Yeah.
So, and I say that, and it's a simple idea, but it's one of those things where, like, okay, when I was at the No-Gi Worlds, I was going against guys, and a lot of them played a very similar game. A lot of them were playing half butterfly, and they were trying to get up into leg entanglements in a lot of cases, off balancing and leg entanglements. And so I remember going with them and like, okay, cool. They were, most of them, all of them, for the most part, were strong on their right side with their left arm up. Mm-hmm. Right. So if you're visualizing this, imagine laying on your side and you're in half guard, half butterfly, and you're playing with your left arm up, left arm on top. That's the most common. That's most people's dominant side. Most people are right-handed. That's the side of half guard they play. Well, I kept switching to my right side in most of the matches. There was one match where I didn't. I got stuck. But I kept switching to my right side. And again, it's one of these things that I've noticed so many times where I found that, man, like there was one guy in particular, I remember I was trying to pass his guard on the left. It was like running into a wall, pass to the right. I found it. This first happened years ago when I had a brown belt come into the gym years ago, back when I was I was a black belt, young black belt. I had this brown belt come in and he's visiting on his strong side, which was his right side. Right. I mean, dude, that guy was tough. Like he felt like a really good black belt on that side. I couldn't pass his guard. Mm-hmm. Pass to the other side. It was like off to the races. It was like, oh, what happened? Like this side feels like a black belt. This side feels like a mediocre blue belt, and you got to think about this. Most people will have this inherent weakness on one side or the other because most people go to gyms and they do their strong side. That's what they focus on because it feels comfortable. Their training partners, they do the same thing. And so they end up getting into these battles on one side in particular almost all the time. And they don't play their other side. And again, this can be different. This is not always the case. So if you're one of those people that plays both sides, well, then you can give yourself a pat on the back because you're ahead of the game. But most people don't do that. Most people will avoid discomfort. And especially in jiu-jitsu, we talk about like embracing the suck, embracing discomfort. But here's something that happens, and this is something humans all do. When we get into a challenging situation, we climb up a little bit. And then once we get to a place of comfort, it's very easy to become complacent there because it's like, do I want to go through that struggle again? Again, like, for instance, you talk to someone that's got a business going, they got it going, they've got it running, man, it's a difficult thing. And then later on, like, I don't want to mess with anything right now. I just want to leave it be. It's good right now because I don't want to go through all that struggle again. So you've gotten good at this position. Well, I don't want to have to develop a whole new position or move. God, that's going to be a big pain in the butt, right? Like, yeah, it will be. So So then you do it. So that's the idea though. So again, you can take advantage of people's inherent weaknesses by going to your both sides. Now, here's the thing that you asked me before the podcast got started. So how, like, if you're learning a move for the first time, do you go to both sides? Do you go to one side? And I don't think that there's like a really, there's probably not a right answer, as far as a correct answer, because you could probably do either way. Here's the thing that I'll say about it though, to consider. Your weak side is probably not as bad as you think. It just feels unnatural, right? What happens a lot of times is that you'll get to sort of go along with like weightlifting, you'll get a set of beginner gains on your weak side pretty quickly. Yeah. So let's say if you've got a move that you've developed, or even if you're just learning a move from like that feels more natural one side, when you go to your weak side, it'll feel very clunky at first. But what ends up happening is it's almost like putting someone under a bench, starting bench pressing. They learn how to bench press, and within a couple months, I mean, their max will just jump, because like their body's getting so stimulated from this, from this exercise in a new way that just goes really quickly. A lot of times that'll happen where you'll say, oh man, my passing to my right side feels so weird. But then very quickly you'll realize that after you just give it a little bit of attention, boom, all of a sudden it feels normal, feels fine.
Yep.
And so again, you can go to either side you want to. Probably, if you're trying to just get the move to work, probably going to your strong side first to begin with, to get a feel for the technique. And then once you kind of have a grip on how to use it, then you go over to the other side and start playing around with it on that side as well.
All great points. And I'll add a couple things.
Sure.
Like one of the best, for me, if I'm like somebody's got a really good, butter half or whatever, they're just really good with that, with one side. Having the ability to go to one side, threaten to one side, and go switch back to the other, that whole movement of switching them side to side, that can really, you can kind of beat them to the punch a little bit, and you can get ahead of them and actually get the position you want first, because they're kind of catching up now. And if you switch sides, they have to switch with you to kind of, create their frames and things like that. So back and forth, I think it's important to be able to threaten to both sides, because you can, that's some of the ways you'll pass. It's not like just like a bull like running. If you can kind of change directions, almost like misdirection, kind of like faking them out a little bit, even threaten one side, go straight to the other side, I think is great. I mean, it's really useful.
Then you're making them have to play your game, because you're creating angles on them, and they're having to follow you.
Yep.
So if you're the one creating angles, that's important. And that's another thing that I do, like when I'm trying to pass, is like going side to side. So the person's having to constantly shift, because, you would agree with this, that like every time you change, like, especially if you're passing someone, if you're in the bottom, one of the things that can be downright like just exhausting is when someone changes a direction on you, and you've basically set up your defenses to one side. You're like, all right, I've got my frames, got my legs in, and all of a sudden they pass to the other side. You're like, oh crap, I have to quickly now turn over here. And now I've got to meet the threat on this side. And that basically puts you a step behind.
Yeah. And that transitional movement, of side to side, it's a lot of times you can get the pass, you can collapse the legs, do things like that. Now, my physical therapy brain, when you're talking about this, it completely goes to longevity and jiu-jitsu. And I think you know where I'm going with this. And it's basically, you're kind of rotating the tires. Let's not use up one side. Let's use sides equally. What you're going to do is you're going to create more life out of your joints. You're not going to just go one side. I'm doing underhooks to one side all the time, or I'm putting all this pressure, all this torque on one knee, whatever it is. You are distributing the load. It's just like playing, having the ability to play top game, bottom game, just, being able to attack from both, being able to, sweep from bottom, pass from top, whatever. Being able to rotate your game is really important. And I think when you do that for guard passing wise, well, you're going to like at least develop a better game, number one. And number two, you're going to not just get, if you're someone that trains 5-6 days a week, man, you're allowing your body a little rest in some ways. You're not just beating yourself up. There is a benefit to doing that to an extent. You want to really, we talk about mastering position. Do you really master it? Maybe not, but you can get really, really good at it, really dialed in. But then can you do it to both sides? And you're kind of using your muscles a little bit differently. And I think that promotes that longevity that we always talk about for us, that like, near 40 years old or above, you want to try to, like rotating your tires, right? You keep those tires in the same way, they're gonna get bald way more fast. And so rotating them is huge.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's one of the things where, I mean, I'm sure this is, and you could probably let me know. I'm sure everybody has slight, like, There's probably slight variances with their level of like, say, mobility and flexibility on a particular side.
100%.
But I know for a fact that sometimes like there's certain parts of my body that are like they're very different. Like for instance, like if I do like a thoracic spine rotation, like where I like rotate back like this, like one side, dude, I can
go a lot.
I can all the way open up and get down to the floor. The other side's like, it's like, whoa. And it's my underhook side here.
Okay.
This is the one that has trouble opening up.
See,
because this is like my most dominant half guard side, because this is where like that pec has to be super tight to where like if someone tries to get an underhook on me, it's like, you ain't getting an underhook because my pecs can be nice and tight. And so when I'm stretching and doing my yoga, I'm like opening up. I'm like, man, that's so crazy. And even my side body on, it's actually this side.
The right side.
Yeah. Right side is way more like tight.
It's developed more.
I think so. I think those muscles are just much like thicker or whatever. And even if I look at my back, there's a slight, like my traps and stuff like that. Like when I do my check-in pictures for my my nutrition coach, like my shoulders are like slightly off.
That's not always abnormal. Like not always the case, but if you look at, you do postural assessments all the time. We can talk about posture. Now, posture is not in any way indicative of dysfunction. What I mean is just because you're in a certain posture doesn't mean you're guaranteed to have this type of injury or this type of pain.
Yeah.
Again, you know, being mindful, having good mobility, you know, if you're rounded, being able to move in a rounded position and come out of the rounded position, that's important. So you don't want to avoid or neglect movements, even if you sit in them, but you don't want to stay in those movements for a prolonged period of time.
Yeah, because you could probably go the other route where like, if you never like, for, you know, because we always talk about the rounded spine being so bad, but I mean, humans just our shoulders will round sometimes depending on like nature didn't give us this ability to flex for no reason, you know. And so like if you had someone that was always upright, and then the minute that they got into a rounded position, they would probably have a lot of problems because their body wouldn't be familiar with it. You
got to be able to do that. You got to be able to be able to move in all the jiu-jitsu positions. Now you mentioned something really important, which is, not necessarily is it gonna, well, I think it'll help your jiu-jitsu, but like longevity wise, if you're doing certain things with rounding, I would like to focus on strengthening and movement into the opposing areas, just to kind of quote unquote balance things out. It just keep things you want to be able to move in both ways, into flexion rounded and opening up extension. So the fact that like, you're opening up and doing that like reach with your arm, I think it's important for again, you want to build, I think more of it like not postural, I think of muscle symmetry. You want the muscles to kind of congruently, because as you move one way, the opposing muscles have to do something as well. They're not like completely turned off. So like if I'm closing my arm or hugging, well, these muscles in the back of the shoulder have to actually elongate. So they eccentric, they lengthen. So these muscles are shortening. These muscles have to have the capacity to lengthen in a controlled way. If something's not working congruently, then you have those issues. So that's why it's important to strengthen those other muscles, because it helps everything move. So like when you're moving one movement, well, you have that movement, but the opposing muscles have to lengthen, and they don't just turn off. They actually work, but they control that lowering, that, you know, eccentric or the lengthening, the negative. You can think of the negative component.
Okay.
Right. So you have the concentric or like the shortening of the muscle, eccentric is the lengthening. And whenever you do that, you think of when you're, even like your biceps, they are working when you're doing a chest press or a, you know, they work.
Yeah.
Like they have to really control the
stabilizing and everything else. Yeah.
They work. So it's important for longevity wise. I know we're kind of getting off on it, but like working both sides, I think is really important.
Okay. Yeah.
Like you said, going back to it. And I think it's important for a number of reasons for you to be, you know, you could be a very mediocre white bluish belts on one side, and you could be like a brown black belt on the other. Now you have a weakness, and somebody can sense that. If they're able to go side to side, they can discover where your weakness is. They can split your guard pretty easily.
For sure. And then again, this kind of just goes to a simple idea. Like when you're going against someone, if you're trying to beat them, you know, and again, like there's nothing negative about this. Like, I mean, we're competitive in the gym. We're competitive when we compete. If you're trying to beat someone, your goal then becomes, I need to bring that person into a position where I am better suited than they are, that I am better equipped than they are, that I have more training, that I'm more effective at than they are. Right. So again, like, you know, if like I'm again, as a history geek and military history geek, get on all into that stuff, you know, there would a lot of times be jockeying for ground. Right. So like a lot of times, like say these old ancient armies, they would like, they would literally, it took hours to put these guys in the field, right? Because you didn't have like, you're talking about hundreds, 60, 70, 80,000, 100,000 people that you got to line up in formation. And then they have to get their hours to get them there. And then they would sit there and look at each other and decide whether or not they wish to get battle. Right. And so like you might have a guy sitting on a hill and then the other guys are down on the bottom. We're like, I don't want to do this. So we're just going to go back to our tent. We're going to go back to our little camp. And so there were situations where at multiple times where these guys would come in and out, and then like, it'd be this race to like, they'd get up early in the morning to try to get the better ground, for the fight. And so you can think about that in your because again, the idea is that if you get the better ground, you have an increased chance of winning, right? Nothing's for sure, but you get an increased chance. You're in better position for it. So it's the same thing for, when you're training, like you're trying to say, okay, I want the best ground, the best position for me against my opponent or my training partner, right? If you're trying to beat them. And so then your job becomes to not hit a technique on them first. It's first to get them where you want them first. And then you say, okay, now we're going to play the game. And then if they're smart, they will try to put you back into their position. And you have to have, this is where the discipline comes in. You have to have the discipline to go back to it. And that's pretty tough. So for instance, with guard passing, if you watch some of my No-Gi Worlds matches or even the matches I had with those young guys from the 10th Planet gyms, it started off, all right, sitting down, playing a little bit, I'd go to the right side. They sometimes would force me back on the other side. I'd go to the other side. And that was the battle, right? And that's the battle that had to be won. Because if I played on their strong side, there's a good chance that they would probably get me into some sort of entanglement that I wasn't effective at, that I wasn't as effective at defending. But if I could continually fight them and put them on their weaker side, then that is going to put me in a better chance or give me into a better position and help me win. And it's so simple. Again, and this is nothing like, this is not like learning a new position. This isn't anything else. This is just like thinking about like, okay, like all I have to do is just take these moves I'm already doing and then do them to another side and then test them out when I'm going against people. Now, again, this might take you years to develop. Like it wasn't like I decided one day that like, okay, snap my fingers, I'm going to be good at passing to my right side and my left side. It took years to develop over time. But again, like you're going to be doing this stuff for years anyway, so you might as well plan ahead. So that's the idea, though. It's very simple, and it's something that can make a massive difference in your jiu-jitsu. That's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. It's not irrelevant, but it's not regardless of whatever position you're using.
Yeah,
and that's something that made a huge difference in my game. I mean, like massive difference. It's something that I can do from a lot of different positions. Like butterflies the same way. My butterfly guard, I can sweep both sides equally as well. Mm-hmm. And if you ever roll with me, like, and I play butterfly, if I can get attached to you, I will sweep you one direction and then you'll defend and I'll go the other direction. Correct. Right. And that's the power of that, because again, there is no safe side. And then that gives you then this multiple. And then again, you can think about it like Dan Gable said at one point. He was like, literally, you double the techniques that you have. Mm-hmm. So if you want to double your amount of techniques, just go to the other side. It's like instantly you become like, if you had 10 techniques, now you got 20. You get 20, now you got 40. Like it's a very simple idea. Now you have a bigger armory, that you can then attack your opponent with. It's a simple idea.
So here's a question. This might be a very, very simple or silly question, but like if you're a newer white belt,
yeah,
and you're trying to pass somebody's guard, is there certain cues, certain things you look for when you're going, if you go to one side, then go to the other? Is there anything you look, I mean, obviously it could be like you get the grips you want, or they're not defending as well, whatever. But is there something, if they're not showing you, is there anything subtle you look for, like that they may show that they're not as conditioned, not as crisp on that side?
So there are sometimes things like depending on that are very position dependent. Mm-hmm. For instance, if like I'm looking at how they're fighting the frames or the hooks, it's like, oh, they've got a good ability here. What I do is I start to probe. Yeah. Let me go to this side. Let me go to this side. Now there's things that I'm noticing, but more than just the noticing, you over time, and everybody will develop this becomes the invisible jiu-jitsu, if you will. You get a feeling, you get an intuition. Because again, you're connected to this other human body, mm-hmm. right? This other creature. And again, there's so many similarities that you can draw from, most of you guys that have listened or been paying attention or have followed me for some time know that I'm into horses now. Right? Yeah. I'm with my wife. It's like when you're on the horse, like you can feel the animal and the animal can feel you. You guys are interlocked. And sometimes there's days where the horse is like pissy, doesn't want to follow you, doesn't want to do what you want him to do. And then there's other days where it's like you guys are just in unison with each other. And then if you get on that horse and you've got baggage, anyone that's been on horses will, like, that horse can feel it,
can tell.
Yeah. Like if you're afraid, the horse can tell. If you're like nervous, it can tell. If you're confident, it can tell. right? And so he can tell these things. And so you get this, there's this interlocking of these two bodies, these two creatures. And it's the same thing that happens when you do jiu-jitsu. We've rolled with people, and a lot of you guys will sort of think about this. You can roll with certain people and they give you a feeling. Like you can roll with them. And it's like, they have a certain feeling to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember one of the first times I rolled with a really good guard guy who's a purple belt. His name was Chris. He was one of my instructor's friends from up in Ohio. He came down, and I remember rolling with him, and he was just such a smooth guard player. I remember it was like so smooth, and I remember I was trying to put my weight on him and put my pressure on, put my hands on him, and it was just like it's like I was trying to balance in water. Like I was trying to put my hands in something, and I would just sink in.
Yeah, shifting his weight.
Yeah, just shifting, and he was so smooth. There was no rigidity. There was a tenseness. It was just all of a sudden I was getting caught left and right. Then there was other people where it was like I remember rolling with Pavel Popovich at that same seminar, and it was him was like my body was like like I was planted into the ground like I was like caked in cement. And then he's moving around me, but somehow he's keeping this pressure on me while he's moving independently with his hips. I was like, this is nuts. And so there's different people that give you different feelings. And like we were talking about one of the students at the gym who's kind of rigid, right? And you're like, he has a feeling. So going with that, what I try to do is I go off the feeling. Like a lot of times, and this is what's going to happen. And again, this is like a higher level thing here, but you'll develop this. Like when you go to one side, as you start to become very acclimated to these positions, you will have a feeling as to which one's the strong side. You're like, okay, I'm getting a lot of resistance here versus there's no resistance here. So for instance, like say butterfly half butterfly, butter half, whatever you want to call it. If I go to the left side, and again, what I'm noticing is their frames. I'm also noticing their butterfly hook, because I'll pummel that out and I'll see how quickly they reinsert the hook.
Yeah.
And then I'll go to the other side. Let's see how quickly they do that. And a lot of times you'll find that on one side, they don't frame up as strong. They don't put the butterfly hook in as quickly, or they don't do it at all. And they allow you to play. They'll go into a knee shield and they'll say, okay, I'll just play knee shield then. And that's what you just won, right? You just got you just won the positional battle.
Yeah.
And so but I go off of feeling, and it's hard to explain that if you're new, but it's something that like, as you train more and more, you'll become aware of it, because it's literally like just any other, I'm just sort of going off on a tangent here, but anything that you do with another human being where you're locked together, you have a feeling with that person, right? Like I can hold my wife and I can tell if she's upset. She doesn't have to tell me. I can feel from her body language, something's wrong.
Right.
What's wrong, baby? Right? Like we know, you know this. If your kid sits down in their lap or whatever, you could probably feel if their energy was depressed, if they weren't energetic.
Yeah.
Right. And so you can, a lot of times when you're rolling, you can feel, oh, that's your strong side and this is their weak side. You can almost feel it. Or you're like, you run into a dude who's like, oh man, he ain't got no weak side.
Sometimes happens.
Yeah. It's like sometimes you run into guys that are equally good on both sides. And then you either have to say, okay, I'm going to roll the dice on this side, or I'm going to change positions and go somewhere else. Because that can be an option too. But again, it's a lot of times intuition.
Yeah, I think like that's very, you have a feeling of like, for me, sometimes I'll see how quickly they'll get their hand position or their frame set up.
Sure.
And their frames are like almost perfect, like positioning. Like one side, they know exactly where their frames are, where the knee position is. Everything's like perfect. The other side may take a little bit more time, or is like they're kind of adjusting a little bit more. But sometimes like as soon as you switch that side, it's like everything locks into place. It's not like it's like a combination lock or something. It's like click, it clicks in, and like as soon as you come to that side, boom, they're right there and the frames are ready. So I think it's just how they're more efficient. I think, efficiency to one side versus the other too.
Of course, because one side's probably been drilled and been practiced so much more. So it's it's like a millisecond ahead. And when you're talking about techniques, a lot of times that's the difference.
Yeah.
Because when you really think about it with grappling, we're working with the same set of tools essentially, right? Unless you have an amputation or some deformity, for the most part, we've all got, 2 hands, 2 legs, whatever.
Yeah.
So theoretically, if you put your hands and your body in the right position at the very right time, you win. Theoretically, right? Because that's really what it is, right? It's like, okay, but it's like these milliseconds. It's like, like why in the way that you set things up and these feelings that you get, it's like, why can Hodger do a cross choke to someone who is like an amazing black belt, and yet he cross chokes?
Yeah, does basic stuff.
Yeah. Why can Gordon Ryan take someone and flatten them out and this person's like an incredibly skilled black belt and they look like they're like a purple belt with them. It's just like, he's in the right place at the right time. And there's all obviously athleticism and strength and stuff involved with these guys too. But again, theoretically, you put yourself in the right place, right time, you can win that match. And so milliseconds are a big deal. And a lot of times it's what you gain when you're drilling and you're practicing to one side over and over and over, you gain that. And again, I know that when I first started training, our coaches were telling us like practice one side because you don't want sides 50-50. Right. It's like you want one side 100%. You don't want two 50-50s.
Yeah.
And I understand that to a degree. And I think that you at the end of the day, you kind of need at least one side you feel like you're really good there, or at least start off with one that you get develop some skill with. And you're like, this is my good side. But I actually find that you gain a lot of insight when you have to go to your weak side and practice, because then you have to almost teach it to yourself and you gain a deeper insight into the position. Because what happens, let's say if you're good on, let's say, passing to one side or sweeping to one side or whatever it might be, when you go to your weak side, you then have to figure out, okay, why isn't this working the same? And you have to really think about it a little bit differently. And it gives you a deeper insight into why you're doing some of the things that you're doing, right? So for instance, like you were just talking about with like half butterfly. Okay, well, why am I having trouble passing on this side, but not this side? Oh, the difference is this guy's got a frame on this side, not this side, or this guy's got this on this side.
Yeah.
You have to think about it a lot more. And I found that as I work on both sides, I actually get a lot of deep insights that serve me on my strong side, because I get a better conceptual understanding of a technique that was didn't have to be explained to me, because essentially it's like almost like like Socrates, like his whole thing was just ask questions. Right. And then if you ask questions, you can get to the truth or you get to the knowledge. Right. And so like a lot of times I remember when I was trying to play butterfly to one side versus the other, I remember like it was really difficult because like it was like my body, I'd learned how to sweep to one side like a boss, and then I would go to the other side. I was like, it felt so awkward. And so then I started, and I would have trouble with it. So then I had to go like, well, why? Why is it that I can do it this way? And then I started to ask questions. Well, where are my hips at? What am I grabbing with my hands? How am I grabbing the neck? And you start asking these questions, and it's through those questions that you learn a lot of really interesting details about your game and about those particular techniques that don't have to be explained to you. Because again, you're just asking questions about what's going on. And this is after you've developed a decent technique to one side, right? If you have something that you can use in the gym fairly effectively, then and you start to play the other side, that's when you can ask those questions, because you basically just start comparing. Like I in my case, I would literally get into the position for the sweep, sort of take inventory, and then try to mimic that on the other side and like sort of look at it, and then until I was able to drill it effectively.
I think you can do that pretty well. Like sometimes people don't quite understand or can tell what they're doing, like wrong or not. So I think in that instance, if it's okay, I've always had some value in recording some rolls or recording some positional sparring. So if your partner's okay, if your coach is okay, I think sometimes recording yourself just going through it, like for educational purposes, because it's kind of like gives you that outside perspective. I think it can be pretty helpful, because I've done that before. I was like, oh, why the hell am I doing that? Or why am I not doing this in this situation? So I think that's just another tool that, like, if you're stuck and like maybe, your coach can't always just stare at you rolling and give you perfect advice every time, because they're, obviously they're probably busy, but like, you could have like a training partner, someone like a black belt or someone that you maybe drill with or look up to that's got a pretty good skill set that can maybe watch you, or, maybe record yourself and then break down the film, or bring down the film with somebody else that might correct you in those capacities. It's just different ways to, I guess, like just see what your tendencies are. Cause sometimes you'll find like, I didn't realize I was doing that even, or I wasn't doing that thing.
Right. That's right. I mean, like the being able to record yourself is fun. The one caveat to that is if you do record yourself, there's no need to post about it.
No, you don't have to.
Like, again, if you and your buddy are on the same page, it's fine. But like, again, practice is practice, and it doesn't need to,
that's right.
It doesn't need to be seen all the time. So if like you go out there and you're like friggin', put your buddy into some really cool move or whatever, it doesn't need to be shown, because then they'll probably maybe not want to roll with you all the time. It's different if everybody's kind of on the same page with it. Oh, we're going to record. Okay, that's cool. That's completely fine.
Yep.
But if you're recording for your own sake and stuff like that, just be mindful of it.
Yeah.
And I say that, and it's not to say that like, because I post stuff on the internet, but it's just one of those things you want to be mindful with the people that you're around, because again, like we all take this stuff, whether we admit it or not, like we don't take it too seriously, but at the same time it is meaningful. And so like, it's like one of those things where, we all want to get better. And so you guys get the idea. I don't need to explain it. So anyway,
it's a trust thing too, as well. Like you're trusting that, like, well, hey, we're working.
Yeah.
We're practicing this, and nobody wants to relive like a moment of you getting like helicopter armbar or something like that.
Well, and winning in practice. I mean, while it is important because you're developing your skills and your confidence, like, again, if you want to flex about how good you are, go compete.
Absolutely. You're both knowing you're out there to put 100% down.
Yeah. Winning in practice is important for your own development, but as far as like your outward expression, winning in practice isn't a big deal. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here on the podcast. Hopefully we didn't lose you. Well, if we were listening to you, if you're still listening to me, then obviously we didn't lose you when we started talking about the history stuff. I know how it works. Like sometimes you'll like, and I'm sure most of you guys are pretty cool with this, but I know sometimes like people get really like, they get their rash guard in a bunch when someone goes like, I come to you for this. I don't come to you for this. I'm like, I understand that, but understand.
So here's a fun thing.
Okay.
Somebody like messaged like, sometimes, so we don't do ad reads. We just kind of talk about that, like the stuff, like our sponsors, they support us.
We've used their products and we like all their products.
And I'm like, hey, they support the podcast and that we want to support them back. Number one, they allow us to do this thing. The other piece of it is like, I don't do mid rolls.
Oh,
we don't do
did
mid-rolls.
Some guy get angry about it?
Because there were like we went a little longer on the whatever. I'm like, usually we try to throw in some fun anecdotes, some fun stories, but I'm like, dude, just skip it. You can literally skip it if you want to. Yeah. If you want to skip it, you're more welcome to. You don't have to listen to stuff. You might miss something. You might miss a fun story or like something interesting we talk about, but like you're more welcome to skip it. I don't make you listen to the, I don't make you do anything, honestly. But I was just like, hey, you're more welcome to skip the intro, outro, whatever you want to do. So anyway, but thank you to our sponsors. We appreciate you all.
Yeah, I think it's funny. Yeah, it's like you're probably not paying anything to listen to the podcast.
No, of course
you're just listening to the podcast, which is fine. It's completely fine. This is how, like, again, almost all of us listening to this that are above the age of like 20 something, you grew up watching TV,
sure,
or advertisements, right? And like when you listen to anything, again, it's just one of those things. This is just the game that we play. And so it is what it is. But that said, we don't do ad reads, and I won't do ad reads, and I don't, and I've talked to you guys about this numerous times. I will not put a product on here that I've not used and found some value in. It's just the way it is. If I don't find value in it, I won't use, and I don't want to use it, and I don't like it, and I don't think it would serve other people, then I don't share it with you. And you guys see like a few products in each one of these episodes like that we advertise, but there's far more that never make it, and I just don't like them because I'm like, well, that's not like the chalk protein. That was a great one. Like this one guy sent us these protein bars, and they were like chalk. I was like, it literally, like when you opened it up, if anybody's like has opened up like weightlifting chalk,
like keto or something, right?
It's something, it is something which is probably just, be probably fun in your stomach, give you water butt, but like it was like just opening up, like I felt like I was opening up weightlifting chalk. I was like, oh, this is going to be delicious. Like, hey
it's
guys,
like sawdust.
Yeah. It's like, if you forget your weightlifting chalk, you can just like sort of use your protein bar as a supplement.
I was also curious because I was starting to read the ingredients, and it was like a vanilla bar, but it's like chocolate bar or something. I was like, wait, what is happening?
They just give you a big thing of talc.
It's whatever. I don't know what it was.
So anyway, but not talking trash, maybe, but it's not up our alley, and so we didn't share. But anyway, that's it, guys. Thank you to our sponsors, and for those of you that are still listening to us, we got Charlotte's Web CBD. If you guys want to check them out at charlottesweb.com. The promo code for the order, if you want to save some money, is Chewjitsu, CHEWJITSU 20. It's 20% off the order. Everything from gummies, tinctures to their products that are NSF certified sport, which again, if you get tested for stuff and you can't have THC in your system, that kind of thing, look at that product, do your research, but it could be really interesting because again, that's endorsed by Major League Baseball, and also NSF certified sports supplements mean that like companies or organizations like USADA say this one's okay for testing purposes. So it could be interesting. Check it out. Also, thanks to our sponsor, Matt at Epic Roll. EpicRollBJJ.com is the website. If you want some cool jiu-jitsu gear that's high quality, looks nice, looks good, check out Matt at his website. EpicRollBJJ.com is the website. Chewjitsu is the code. That's Chewjitsu, right? No, not Jiu-Jitsu. Just making sure you guys that sent me the DM saying, thinking the code was Jiu-Jitsu. It's Chewjitsu, is for 15% off the order. And thanks to Manscaped for helping make this podcast happen. If you guys have never been to Manscaped's website, if you've never looked at any of their stuff and you are a man, or you know someone is a male who wants to step up his grooming game, check it out. I like all their stuff. Again, I've used everything. I haven't used the beard trimmer yet. I'm going to use the beard trimmer soon, but the beard hedger's nice, I'm sure. But I've used all their other stuff, and everything's been high quality. And it's one of the reasons why, like, when they sent it, I'm getting excited about using it. So they make good stuff. And so if you want some good high quality products and soaps and balms and all that other stuff, for yourself or a man in your life, then check them out at manscaped.com. The promo code is Jiu-Jitsu20 for 20% off the order, and you'll get free shipping at checkout. And if you want to support the podcast directly and get access to some exclusive content and bonuses, check out patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. And if you want to join my email newsletter and get my daily email, along with access to 3 free ebooks that'll go into everything from drilling to designing a jiu-jitsu game plan to studying stuff at home. As I shared at the beginning of the podcast, these 3 products will eventually be going away in the next few months. So if you want them, again, you're not going to hurt my feelings if you don't, but if you want them, sign up soon because they'll be gone. I'm going to be going some other direction with that stuff. But you can check it out at my website, chewjitsu.net/join. Again, that's CHEWJITSU.net/JOIN, join. And then you can sign up there and get access to that stuff and get my daily email newsletter. And so, guys, with that said, thank you so much for being here today. We'll talk to you next time.